Chapter 444. Wouldn't it be better to start with a meal? Kishir, heading towards the simple food and wine that the servants had pre-arranged in their lodging, looked back at Yidr and asked. The astonishing conversation he'd just had with Enon seemed to have already vanished into the distance. Yidr glanced at the table Kishir had pointed to and shook his head. I'm fine. His appetite was far from roused given the circumstances. The bread that emitted a delicious aroma, the fresh fruit, right now they all looked no different from clods of dirt. However, Kishir was not the type of man to be deterred by a refusal. It's better not to skip meals, even if you're not hungry. Don't tell me you're going to let me eat alone. ... Really? Yidr found it impossible to ignore the smile that softened Kishir's otherwise stern face. What on earth is he thinking? With a trace of self-reproach, Yidr took a seat across from him. Without any hesitation, Kishir picked up a slice of bread soaked in honey and apple and passed it over. Initially, Yidr planned to eat just that one slice and get up. But as soon as he finished it, another piece of bread appeared before him. When he hesitated, Kishir subtly shook the bread as if suggesting his arms were getting tired. Eventually, Yidr took the second piece. After finishing the second slice, a third and then a fourth followed. ... As Yidr silently accepted morsel after morsel from Kishir, who himself took large bites of his own share, something peculiar began to happen. The taste started to come alive on his tongue. First, it was the sweetness of honey, then the creamy richness of the white filling. Next, the tart crunchiness of the fruit. And finally, when he could even discern the saltiness sprinkled atop the butter, Yidr felt as if something that had been rigidly frozen inside him had astonishingly melted away. The man responsible for that melting feeling was, of course, the one sitting before him. When Kishir skillfully spread the last remaining piece of bread and handed it over, Yidr accepted it but didn't put it in his mouth. Instead, what escaped his lips was a question, now noticeably drained of vigor. Weren't you surprised? Why should I be surprised when I didn't even guess correctly? The response came back smoothly, as though he had been waiting for this moment. Weren't you concerned it could be dangerous? The person before me has already provided sufficient proof of trustworthiness. The hand holding the last piece of bread trembled for a moment. As if he had waited a long time for this very response, Kishir's eyes met Yidr's. You don't need to know everything about someone to be with them. Knowing their character and intentions from what they have shown you can be enough. You don't need to know everything about someone to be with them. The weight of that statement, unmistakably directed at him, struck Yidr like a hammer. As he stared into the dark pupils of the man in front of him, unable to blink, Kishir gave a soft smile. It took a day of waiting, but finally, my assistant is truly seeing me. ... It took quite a while. No, Yidr had been observing him all along. He had thought he was observing, but a deep voice in his heart quietly raised a question. Could he truly say with confidence that he had? Had he truly faced Kishir throughout the day without merely observing him? Yidr couldn't answer that question. Then, what had he thought he had been seeing of Kishir today? One thing was certain. Kishir had neither forgotten last night's events, nor was he indifferent to them, as Yidr had initially believed. Were you waiting for me to speak first? Yes. Why didn't you just ask me first? You already know why I didn't. Kishir laughed quietly. There is no point in forcing an unwanted answer from someone. especially not from you. In essence, Kishir was saying he had not acted because he knew Yudir would not want him to. See, by waiting, you spoke first. So, waiting for a day has its merits. He said it was enough, but Yudir didn't feel the same way. I might not have lived up to your expectations and faith. There is no chance of that. Fortunately, I have plenty of time to wait. It was a skill, being able to joke about waiting indefinitely for someone to open up, and it made Yudir feel all the more foolish for being easily swayed by such words. As Yudir exhaled, an unremarkable heat surged from behind his eyes. Yudir spoke, looking downward. I can never truly match up to you, Commander. Interesting. That's a thought I have every day when I look at my assistant. Grinning, Kishir leaned his chin on his hand. I don't know what's making the assistant so hesitant, but if it has anything to do with me, there is something I would like to say. Yudir should have asked what it was, but his tongue seemed paralyzed. Captivated by Kishir's piercing gaze, he listened. Do you know that worrying is something that you can only do about things that you ultimately consider to be that important? ... If the one who has taken my heart worries because of me, then I am a man who would be more than happy with that. I'm quite the opportunist. Ah, did you already know that? The one who had taken Kishir's heart. Yudir's thoughts stalled, pierced by an unexpected strike. Words that Kishir had once uttered in the depths of the great serene forest flashed like wildfire across his mind. Why bring that up now? As Yudir lost his words, Kishir smiled gently with curved eyes. A joke, perhaps, but I'm serious. He had been closely watching every nuance of Yudir's reactions. Anyway, the fact that someone as unreadable as my assistant would worry enough to observe me through others gives me hope. It may be a wild guess, but it seemed that way earlier. Although he called it a wild guess, his eyes conveyed anything but. And in reality, it was far from a mere guess. Yudir recalled the last words left by Anon. I have shown you everything. Now do as you please. Anon had displayed his true identity, a secret difficult to understand logically, as an offering, showing Yudir how Kishir would react. Thanks to that, Yudir could initiate the conversation, and for that he was grateful. But Kishir had also sensed another hidden agenda in that conversation. His manner of almost acknowledging it while pretending not to was truly like him. In truth, what Yudir sensed wasn't solely hope. Yudir faintly discerned traces of other carefully concealed emotions within Kishir's smile. Still, the fact that he only mentioned hope could even mean, don't overthink things. No matter how strong and exceptional one is, everyone needs time now and then. If talking with me makes you feel better, then do so. If not, that's fine too. A thin breath escaped from between Yudir's lips. If today had been a game of tactical chess between them, Yudir felt he had just been utterly defeated. I have never actually won in my previous life anyway, he mused. Finally, he exhaled all the air he had been holding and released the words that had been lurking even deeper within him. As you said, I have indeed been pondering over matters concerning you today. Words that had been excruciatingly difficult to utter felt astonishingly insignificant once they were out. Suppressing his emotions, Yudir then threw out another question. What do you think I have been worried about? He wanted to find out even the aspects he had not been curious about until now. What did Kishir think of him? Kishir had come close to guessing about the true nature of Anon. So, what were his thoughts about Yudhir? Catching Yudhir's gaze filled with such implications, Kishir soon opened his mouth to reply. Well, the dream I claim to have had last night and the sleep talk that I don't remember could be the most likely culprits, but I can't be certain. It seemed Kishir had also judged that Yudhir's attitude had markedly changed from that moment. Yudhir cast another question while staring at the swirling dark red liquid in the wine glass Kishir was idly holding. You mentioned that you sometimes sleep like that when you are tired. Do you recall how often that happens or when it started? It's difficult to keep track of all the dreams, so I can't give you an exact answer. However, there was one instance where I slept so deeply that I had a nightmare after someone woke me up. When was that? When you applied to join the cavalry. Nathan thought I had physically collapsed due to overwork. When I applied to join the cavalry? Coincidentally, that was also when Yudhir became aware that he had returned to the past. As he recalled this, a cold shiver ran down his spine. Could this really be a coincidence?